Okay, what do you want to know?
Are you ready to take us back there to that life?
Not without Pepsi. I'm just saying.
What do you worry about the most with these kids today as far as gender goes?
Let's tackle the first one, then we'll come back to that one.
Okay.
Fair enough? Okay.
Yep.
So a long time ago, as I said in the last piece that we did, and again, sorry about that, family comes first for me, and we had some other things going on, and just kind of calculating where we want to go. So, as I said, it was a very, very different time. It was chaotic. It was dangerous. It was but it was exciting. Right, cousin? It was exciting.
That's why we did it.
We faced so many dangers and obstacles. It wasn't funny. Cousin's with me today filming, so yay. We finally got her back in the fold, so we're happy about that. But cousin knows about those days. Well, actually, she knows about them much earlier than that, because she's, older than me, but she remembers it 60s, 70s things. She remembers all of it. And so anyway, Houston was a very particular kind of place, It was dangerous, but it was exciting. If you had a hustle, you could get it on there. I never would have thought I would have got caught up in that. I never thought that would be what would happen. I miss those girls. Because I know most of those girls didn't get out. Not girls like me, right? But then the biological girls that we worked with, they didn't get out either. It was harsh and it was brutal. It was brutal.
So what do you worry about the most with the kids today as far as gender goes?
Oh,
confusing to me, I know.
To be honest with you, I don't understand how we got off the rails about it. And I'll go back to the first question in a minute, but I don't know how it's gone so off the rails. I think a lot of part of the problem is, and I'm talking to everyone out there, including, all my chicks out there, because you know what? Sometimes you gotta point the finger at your own. You have to, or else we can't get anywhere. Somewhere along the line, these kind of white women decided, gender now belonged to them, and they'll decide who can be trans and who isn't, and they'll decide the definition. And then they move the needle so far about the clinical definition of being a transsexual, because that's what I am. They moved it so far and watered it down so much that anybody can be whatever they want, and they are, right? Now we can be a bear and a cat. It's just, but here's part of the problem. Here's what I'll say, right? And I've said this before, right, to cousin. How come there's been no committee about punishment for things like this? Why has there been no committee investigating school unions, student boards, superintendents? Why not? We all know what happened in Virginia. We all know what happened with the case where a school association referred a family over to the FBI for domestic terrorism. We all know about the boy that went from one school to another school after he raped one girl at one school, then they shipped him to another one and he raped another girl there. I don't know if you remember, but I remember the girl that got put in a coma by being hit by a volleyball that had been spiked by a boy. And you know, I have to say, according to them, right, they say there's no boys on these teams, right? In these blue states, there's no boys on these teams. I was told recently that the laws in a particular blue state, Oregon, they're very clear. There can be no transition for minors under the age of 18, right? Okay. So if you're telling me that no one under the age of 18 is allowed to transition, and these are your rules in the state of Oregon, well, then that means you are putting boys on girls' teams. Because to say you're something and you're receiving no care, you're under no medical provisions, and then you're going to the girls' team and claiming that you're trans, that's just not possible then. Because under your state's rules, you've already said no one under 18 can transition. That means, in fact, you're putting boys on girls' teams. That's what it means. These are your rules, blue states. And to think that we're all stupid enough to believe otherwise, I know better. I know what's happening. I know what's happening. And I just don't feel like, I thought you shut that off. Sorry guys, somebody forgot to shut down their phone. But no, I don't know. But my bigger question is, why no committees? Why is no one being investigated? You know, there's a story that really angers me tremendously. His name is Jeff Younger. I've talked about him before. Some of the content, actually, I believe that's coming out, talked about before. Jeff Younger lost his son to his psychopathic wife that converted, listen to my language, converted the boy through emotional manipulation, converted, and is continuing to convert. You should check out Jeff Younger's story. And it concerns me deeply because it's not the only story like it. I just don't know how we get here. And so I have actually decided and thought about reaching out to lawmakers such as Brandon Gill, Josh Hawley, and Senator Cassidy, I believe, because he's a doctor, if I have that right.
What do you think they're getting wrong about it? What do you think these folks they're not quite getting the point?
That's what I mean. Like, why are people not? Why are people not under investigation? Why are we not wanting to pull rules, or it's not rules, but like regulation and stuff for these kind of people that are doing these things? I'm not understanding. Here's one of the things that we did, right? So we created the Lake and Riley Act, right? Because she was that girl that was, murdered and I believe raped, by an illegal immigrant. So a law was enacted out of Lake and Riley. Why are we not doing that now? For these teachers, I don't care if it's a teacher, a physician, a doctor, a school. It doesn't matter. Male, female, it doesn't matter. There must be consequences, jail time, federally, the whole blanket. That way, if it's federal, it covers every single state. You're not getting out of it, even if the state doesn't want to press the charges. You can be reported and then turned into the FBI. They do the investigation, and there's no less than 2 years you have to serve for doing that to kids, because you're converting them through emotional manipulation, like we're seeing parents all over the country doing to kids now, so they can get clicks and views. Look at Jazz Jennings. That is the most unhappiest individual I've ever seen. Should have never been allowed to do what has happened. Should have never taken place. You should have grown up, Jazz Jennings, and figured out your life, figured out who you are before you took one freaking hormone pill. Any kind of transition. People have been done a disservice, but I feel not only should there be a minimum of 2 years time for these individuals, male, female, I don't care, in every single spectrum of life, right, that it touches, right? And then you have to register. I'm not kidding. You have to register, not like a sex offender, but you have to register as an individual that has groomed through emotional manipulation. Therefore, you cannot be around other children. And then there's a database created where we can keep an eye on you like we can do with sex offenders. Because what I'm seeing and what I feel, I believe that is happening based upon the fact that it's spread throughout all the school systems and then also in college level, white Democratic women and liberal women are outpacing Peptos hand over hand quicker than what a typical traditional Pepto does. If you look at it and pay attention to it, the bigger picture, that's what's happening. And I just don't understand why no one is calling for an investigation that's more thorough and aggressive. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't know. I don't get it. And so this is why I feel like making this noise and having these conversations and we develop more into it, I think that this is what should be called for. I do think there should be a call to action where we get into this idea that people need to now face that punishment for what they're doing, especially when they're people that are allowed to have access to our children all day, every day. Like in Minnesota, they just did something about now dolls will have removable genitalia. Yeah, you should check that shit out. Imagine that. And this is grade school. Like, these are babies. If they were my kids, you can forget about it.
Back in the 70s, they had a doll that came out, was from All in the Family. It was baby Joey. It was Gloria and Michael's child that they had them get pregnant and everything on air, and when they had the doll came out, it was anatomically kind of correct, and everybody had a major problem with it.
Well, see, it's kind of funny because they're not talking about
why.
You know, to remember my generation. You know, I'm an '80s baby, so my thing is, we're not talking about a doll like Mr. Potato Head here. You know, where we're supposed to have fun with it and put his, his mouth on his belly and all that. We're talking about, right? And these are grade school kids, and then we're going to talk about it, and put this phrase out there where, see, gender can be changed.
Yeah,
that's, I think, you know what I'm saying? That's the point of it, and that's what I don't like. That's child abuse. That hands down is indoctrination. So I want everyone that's here to be able to spread that word and understand what we need to do. Now, I myself am making steps and moves and making decisions about reaching out to lawmakers. And I want to know what you guys think. Like, how do you feel about that? You know, where do you think I should start if you have an idea? You know, if you've got an angle or you have a, maybe kind of some, what's the word? I can't find the word. What's the word I'm looking for? You got some kind of connection or hookup that you can give me about how to get a hold of a lawmaker.
Somebody that knows somebody.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, cousin. And so I just feel like we have to have more presence in that field. And I think we just have to shine the light on it more, because the problem's not gone just because we're not seeing a lot of major cases. And so I will add, before we return to your first question that you wanted, we're the guy that goes to the Disney's bathroom and takes pictures. Yeah, that's not. Yeah, no, that's not. I don't know what that is. I'm being honest. I don't know what the frick that is. Good luck with that. I'm surprised someone hasn't removed your chin by now. But okay. If it was my husband, yeah, your chin would be gone. So I think, and Dylan Mulvaney, I don't know what his grift is. I don't personally get it. I don't know how in the hell it works. Thank you for almost ruining an entire beer company that's like 120 years old. Appreciate you on that one. But you guys, you got to just call this stuff out. You really do. You got to be. I don't want people to lose their humanity and their moral compass, right? But at the same time, you have to have room where you call this stuff out, where it's because it's nonsense and you know it, and it reeks of. It just kind of reeks of what's the word I'm looking for? Predatory principles. You know, it's just, that's all I see. And I want to address something else real quick. So there's this person, last name McBride, that is now in Congress. And so I don't know what your deal is, McBride. I don't understand your grift. I don't get it. But I find it so fascinating. Firstly, you have the audacity to wear an Amazon suit in front of everybody, you know, in Congress. That's funny. I would never wear Amazon clothes, especially if I worked for Congress. But here's the funny thing. You're not in Congress because you care. You're not in Congress because it truly is the most important building on the planet. My feelings. You're not there for all the people. You used people's emotional impact. You imprinted on people. They put you in there. Nancy Mace had a fit because she was supposedly, you know, SA'd. Yeah, you show me the paperwork and I got a bridge for you you can buy. Because I know what being assaulted looks like. And it's not Nancy Mace. So, but didn't she just get voted out? She did, didn't she? Yeah, she's gone as of next year. So that worked out for me. But then you sit there and you sit in front of someone such as Marco Rubio with your very male machismo arrogance on your face. You might want to calm that down. Because while nobody else will tell you, I'll tell you, you're full of shit. You don't care. You don't care about the country. You don't care about right direction. You don't care about any of that. You care about how you look on TV and causing a scene, using the emotions you played on to get elected. That was smart. I don't understand your particular type of grift, but I commend you for it. So pipe down, especially in front of people like Marco Rubio, because you are none of those people. And you will never be that woman, so don't, okay? Now, I will get back to your first question. I think you wanted to do a part 2 on that one, I think. So we'll be right back.